Welcome back to Not Another Muslim Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mubarak Chaudhry. We have Shafat Ahsan, Khalil Khatib, and Ibrahim Javed with you here as well, who are the co-hosts. And today we actually have a very special guest, Brother Tariq Touré, who is a poet and native son of West Baltimore that's produced a plethora of art throughout the years. He's a poet, he writes prose, and he's been featured in many publications from Muslim Matters to Salon to Washington Post, Al Jazeera, The Nation, Sapelo, and he uses his writing as a sort of medium to shed new light on various social justice issues such as racial inequality, Black culture, Black Muslim narratives, and we're hoping to really talk to him about his story, his art, being a Muslim creative, and really just everything above, inshallah. So, assalamu alaikum, brother Tariq, how are you doing?
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank y'all so much for having me.
No, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
brother Tariq, one of the things that we do, like the first question that we always sort of ask everyone that comes onto the show, that's always like a hard sort of question to answer, but we do it because I think it is a hard question to answer. But the number one question we ask is, who is blank? So the question to you is, right, like, who is Tariq Touré, right? What's the first thing that comes to mind when that question's posed?
Um, I'm the son of Malik Jones. I'm a son of Maisha Muhammad. And alhamdulillah, I'm trying my best to be Muslim. And I use writing as a form of expression of what's been conveyed to me, what I've experienced, and what I know to be true. So, that's what I would say Tariq is. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Mashallah, that was a great answer, by the way. Mashallah. That was,
Yeah, actually, I don't think a lot of people answer from their like legitimate origins, right? Like their family. So I think it's beautiful that you started with that. Um, so I think first things first is you're known for the sort of like art and poetry and things that you've written. I'd love to talk to you about that as like the sort of like kickoff for the conversation. Um, what I guess like first question is, how'd you get into the space? What really inspires you from your writing and everything? I guess, yeah, like why the sort of creative outlets that you've created? uh
Mm.
why'd you start them, and what keeps you going, and what's really like the source of inspiration of them?
Yeah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawm ad-din. Um, so I would say number one, my mother, when she accepted Islam, this is like way before I was born, and there wasn't like a whole lot of um, materials on Islamic knowledge as it is now. Like, it's countless translations and books and resources. She would take what she would learn from teachers in different publications, and she would actually build some of the learning that we needed to do in just elementary Islam creed, things like that, into like rhyming poems and stuff like that. So that's how my older brothers and sisters actually learned some of their knowledge. And so that sort of creativity is just sort of just passed down. It's not, it's just that's I would have been gifted that even if I didn't try, to be honest with you. So I would say, number one, that, I come from a really creative family. My uncle used to play saxophone in like a band. Other family members, singers, performers, dancers. So we've been using sort of art to express ourselves for a while, and also my attraction to language. When my father accepted Islam, he was able to um, go to spend time in Darul Noor in
Wow.
Syria to study.
Yeah.
So he would be in the city in Baltimore, and then he would take some time to go to the summer and go study, and then come back and forth.
How long did he do
So
that for? Sorry.
I don't know. I mean, over the span of like 2, 3 years, 4 years, like back and forth.
MashaAllah.
It wasn't like a whole bunch of time, but it was pretty dramatic. I mean, he's a kid from the project, so
Yeah.
for him to be able to go, do that and then come back, and so he's a grammarian to the heart,
Oh,
and
mashallah.
so just being around language and sort of that way just built like that attraction to that, and also the madrasa that I went to, very tiny storefront masjid, like in a lot of cities, and one of the things that we did, we multi-purposed the musalla like a lot of other places, and we would put on plays, and like being a part of a play was like a big thing. Like if you were, because we didn't have like a gym or anything like that, so it was nothing for us to be like reading Julius Caesar as it's like supposed to be read in a play, and people acting out parts and stuff like that. So I think that all sort of translated and grew my thirst for conveying to people, and it also grew my thirst for like language and writing and just art, across the board.
Mashallah. Mashallah. Kind of related to that. Well, I had like kind of switch the discussion a little bit, but I was really interested in your book, David's Dollar.
Mm,
Just not just because it's like just a really good Muslim children's book, but like there's just so much going on in that book, and I just wanted to like understand like, first of all, like get why I get into like children's book space, and like two, like usually when you read children's books, like when I grew up, it's like usually about like sharing, caring, like helping out people. But you're like teaching group economics, and I was like, I don't, and mashallah, like I read through it, it's really good, just like in plain writing, and really good concepts, teaching like really advanced concepts. So like all like this question is like, how'd you I guess like put that all together, like group economics, making like digestible for little kids, and like
yeah.
why is that important for like the audience you're trying to reach, like who is your audience,
Hmm.
as like how like that whole process, like just wanted to get your thoughts on it, I guess.
Yeah. Well. Alhamdulillah, like there's been, I would say within like the last maybe like 7 years or something like that, there's been like a whole ocean of like literature that's very like identity based, like
Yeah.
I don't know, like Khadijah's Kimar, Khadijah, Hadia's hijab or something like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like those boxes were like filled, like they were already taken care of, and the people who put those together did an amazing job. And I felt like maybe I could put together something that could forward the conversation about like
Mm.
what Muslims have to put forth through our children's literature that would be useful for a lot of other people. And the makeup of it, the look, everything about it represents, like a average Black Muslim community that you might find in any city. The colors, the people in it, but it teaches a lesson about where does your money go when you spend it.
Mm.
And one of the things that you realize when you grow up is that, especially coming from Baltimore, like your money doesn't really stay in your community as much as you really needed to. You know, thriving communities. When you pay your plumber, your plumber may need to go buy some diapers, right? And so as soon as you pay your plumber, who is, I don't know, Uncle Omar or something like that, the idea that you just pay him $250 to fix the toilet that you couldn't fix, and your wife is screaming at you, and you pay, Uncle Omar, come over here 2 o'clock in the morning, fix this for me.
Yeah.
You pay him $250, and now he go home, his wife saying you didn't get the diapers while you was out.
Yeah.
He goes home, and that he goes and spends $50 in diapers all the way out 30 minutes away with some people who may not even care about
Yeah.
how that money stays in the community.
Yeah.
Is ludicrous when you think about it. So I wanted to try my very best to speak that concept to kids, and it's a dire situation in predominantly Black communities, because some some statistics say like the dollar won't stay in the community past like an hour.
Really? Oh, subhanallah.
So that's a serious, that's
Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah. So just being around and like learning how other communities works. Like I went to this place in California It's called Union City or something like that.
Mhm.
But it's like, I got some Afghan homies over there, and like literally out on the same street, I got pizza at an Afghan place. It's called Laziz Eats. Amazing pizza. And then I bought like some phobes across the street, and then like
Yeah.
the dude's uncle was over there that ran that shop.
Yeah.
And I was like, alhamdulillah, this is how it's supposed to work. I'm like, I got like
Yeah.
a little Afghan mob over here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really appreciated that. And I know these things to be true. Like, it's not like a figment of my imagination.
Yeah.
I know sometimes we operate that way.
Can you talk about actually, like, I guess, like the issue at hand that you're trying to address when it comes to the book, like
Mhm.
the topic of group economics and spending locally, like, I guess, like, what when it comes to I know you're talking in reference to the book, you're talking about predominantly Black communities specifically, but in communities that are more, I guess, like, localized and collective, is there like an issue where money that is supposed to be spent on communities locally, they're not, like, it's dispersing away from the community?
And just like to add on to that before, I think like it'll come in is, one sentiment we get a lot, like, because basic communities, at least, we have that same thing where they spend within the community, but I think it's more just we just want to, like, we don't know how to speak, like our mom and dad didn't know how to speak to, like, the average American people, so they'd rather go to the Bengali guys. But I think the other sentiment you get a lot is opposite sentiments, like, I could go to the Muslim guy who might, like, cheat me or like cut me off, or maybe maybe it'll just even cost more, or I could just go to, like, the really nice American, like, looks nice, gives me a good fixed price, I can like get my job done. So there's also that sentiment. So I was wondering, like, also adding on top to Mubarak's question, like, what's your thoughts on that are?
Well, I mean, for instance, I mean, just to provide an anecdote, like, and no knock to whoever got, maybe like a branding contract with them or something like that. But like, some of our aunties been selling hijabs for forever, like decades. And Nike is like, I made one for y'all, and it's like, we out the door. like nobody asks Auntie Atia, hey, could you make something we can run in? So it's very simple things that allow people to have a market share in things that are so, like, normative for us. It's strange. Like, it's
right.
Like, if somebody, some Chad says he's opened up, a shop and he's selling desi food, he's trying to sell you some pakora, you're gonna be like what? Like, like, you can be like, are you selling this to me? Like, my sister makes this, and my brother makes this 10 times better. So it's more so about things that, like, Maulana Malcolm X was talking about, of this idea creeping up on us. It doesn't happen all of a sudden, but it's colonialism, whatever you want to call it, that, like, he said specifically verbatim, the white man's ice is colder, right? Like, for some reason, like, his ice is a little bit more cold, and we will find every excuse to spend money outside of places that may be, like, locally. And then we look 15 years down the line and we're like, oh man, this place doesn't really, the food isn't good as it used to be, or, well, they never had a chance to have a surplus of money or business to be able to try out new things to improve their products. So they've had to make the same thing because that's what kept the lights on. So conceptually, I really just wanted kids and people, period, to just think about it before you buy. Because in America, we're raised to consume. Like, we're born and bred to buy things here. Like, that's what you do. You feel sad, you buy. And since we're gonna be participating in that, we should be a little bit more thoughtful about it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
I guess, like, going off that. Sorry, you want to go ahead, Khalid?
No. I was just saying.
So would you say, like, this is just something I feel like I noticed, but obviously, like, my perspective, I'm pretty young, so maybe, like, I haven't noticed it before, but I feel like this year, like, with a lot of the movement, especially in the summer, right, with the Black Lives Matter movement, with anything else going on, I feel like they finally kind of, like, the non-Black communities finally started to understand that, like, if you want to support, you also have to support local Black businesses, and I feel like that finally became kind of a centerpiece of the conversation. Is that just me thinking that, or is there actually big change coming in terms of, like, people seeing that you do need to support in that manner, like local businesses not only, but also local Black communities and their business.
Yeah. I mean, like, and then not just from a specific continent, like all across the world, people have, come here for dunya, right? Like for a better life, a better existence here on the dunya, better quality of life. And you should, if you understand that, like Allah said, وَلَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا بَنِي Adam, like, we dignified Bani Adam, which means that, like, we shouldn't have pathologies associated with Black people, right? So that would mean then if a certain segment of the population, for whatever reason, it's like, it's tough, what's going on? Why haven't they been able to open up 16 subways? And I met a brother some months ago, he had 50 little Caesars. I was like, what in the world? Well, then you have to, while you're collecting your dunya, it's okay to look up and think what's going on. And nobody's asking anybody to put on any cape whatsoever. I wouldn't accept that myself. But to just look and say, hey, what's going on the other side of this? And sometimes you might look and see, like, hey, there's something that's been going on here for a long time that's locking people out of the quote unquote American dream. And I think over the summer, people started realizing, like, oh, we're all, like, a lot of us are here to make money. Here to spend money. It don't hurt to buy the same thing that you're going to buy anyway from somebody that and they Muslim too. So it's like, it's no losses. If you need tissue, why buy it from a stranger? Like, that don't make sense. Yeah,
mashallah, that's awesome, because, like, it's like, I feel like your book will help, like, even for kids, right? I feel like people my age are finally kind of, or myself included, are finally kind of thinking about, our purchases more. Like, even like when we asked you about the book earlier, right? Like, I imagine, like, the cognitive dissonance, like someone told Malcolm X that you bought his autobiography on Amazon rather than going to the local bookstore.
Yeah.
Like, like how that would, like, he'd roast you. Like,
right. Yeah, he would probably spaz out on you, to be honest.
But mashallah, like with all the great work that you do, like you mentioned in the Muslim space, what do you think that, like, Muslim artists kind of are things they have to deal with, or any difficulties they have to overcome? Maybe that could have been in your experience with writing this book, or in any other works that you've done.
I think that just being valued as a contributor to the community. I think, like, that's one of the things that get overlooked a lot of times. So alhamdulillah, my wife, she's, like, finishing, like, the last of her pre-med requisites. And so, like, seeing that grind up close is real. Like, it's a serious thing. And we were talking about sort of like people who travel that path, and they look at somebody who's, like, in liberal arts and the humanities or something like that, and be like, oh, they didn't have to work that hard to do X, Y, Z. And it's like, the idea, the community of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is about, we need everybody. Like, we need, we need everybody. Everybody has a part to play. And I think sometimes with artists, specifically in the Muslim community, it isn't valued until the last second. Oh, we need a space filler in an event. Can you go ahead and whatever the case may be? Or one thing that bothers me is that we'll be very critical of our young folks, like, not putting out the best work. But if you have a poetry night once a year, that means little Ahmed, little Anissa, they have one time a year where they feel the pressure and the feedback from performing their art or sharing their art that will allow them to grow in it. So you're like, oh, their songs were trash, but they performed one time. From the time they were 7 to the time they were 18, they performed 10 times, in front of people, and got to be able to feel that embarrassment and things like that. So I reflect on that a lot. And I think that, the tide is changing a bit. I think the sort of value that we have, we need everybody. We need all the support. One of my homies, his son is named after Sanan, the architect who designed the Ottoman palaces.
Mhm.
And so, one of the things that he said was like, he wanted people to reflect on the law when they saw how well it was designed, like how beautiful it was. And so if anybody's been in there, my wife and I, we went like some years ago, and being inside, I mean, it just makes you like reflect on like, wow, this is what Allah can inspire people to build. So, we just need everybody, and then, we just stir it up, and we can put forth and bring people nearer to Allah through our expression, through healing. If you're a physician, when you are treating people well and you're taking care of them, and, you did a surgery on them or something like that, then, that's a part of the process. You could do surgery in a hospital room. You could do surgery in a hospital room. And if there's no art whatsoever, they'll wake up 4 white walls, tiny window, right? So you healed them, and they woke up after having a tragic accident, and they feel crazy because they feel like they're in an insane asylum. Well, the artist comes in and makes sure that room has an essence of healing after that, that physician has done that tough work,
So I guess in Muslim communities, do you have any experience of your own where they've gotten it right when it comes to being able to regularly have artists and Muslim creatives contribute in ways that is that really like exemplifies their value within, I guess, like community work?
Yeah. Well, I would say two right now that pre-corona were really knocking it out the park. One, I would say, is Dar Hijra in Virginia. They let their young folks go. Like, I was very, very happy to sort of like see over a span of a few years them continuing to. They let the youth there like decorate like people who go with arts and crafts. They let them do things in the masjid. They let them perform. They let them put different things on. And I think, and that's a big message. There's like a whole lot of like Somalis and Egyptian folks there who, I think they really have an understanding of what that means. Another one is a smaller organization in Seattle called What's Up.
Oh, I love What's Up. Yeah. Barco Blue,
and
he
so
runs it,
like,
right?
Yeah. So I mean, and the artist runs it. So they've even gone beyond what you would like normally even expect or have or put in place. Like there's a studio that's like blocks down the street from What's Up.
Oh, wow,
so
mashallah.
they really put on, and what you end up realizing is that like kids who fit in that box go there and they'll grow there.
Yeah.
Kids who may not be, I'm right-minded, my wife is left-minded. Like, everything is like dot for her. For me, it's like confetti, right? So they'll find their place, and you just got to open it up for them. So I would say those two come to mind specifically. If I'm missing anybody, just please forgive me, inshallah.
No, it's kind of like you're opening my perspective up, because I come from, I guess, like a more like left-minded sort of space, in the sense that whenever I think about like contribution or value or something like within like Muslim spaces to do, I always go towards like stereotypical education, like what lectures or classes can we do, right? Which I feel like most masjids like I guess like try to do. But you're right in the sense that like I guess like within a surgery room, like the doctor will probably revive like a patient, but there's levels of like trauma or healing afterwards that like the artists are able to actually like contribute and help with. And I mean, like, now that I think about it, right, like there's many things that Muslim creatives and artists can continually do, that they already do, right? But within like spaces that exist, like masajids or Muslim spaces, faith spaces, that can appeal to the wide generality of people, because that's just how they express their Muslimness, or even like can reflect on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or engage in spiritual development that honestly, like I feel like I'm surprised that we don't like do more of, to be honest.
Like, and I can't name them, but can y'all name like the last, I don't know, top 10 interior designers of like mega mosques?
Oh my gosh. And I feel like they use the same person sometimes too.
Like we don't know, but we walk in the door and be like, mashallah,
Yeah.
look what they
You
done.
know how many young kids want to be that person too, though now?
Yeah.
We know those guys, like whoever they are, So, it's I guess more work to do in that space,
Yeah, and something that you mentioned earlier with the Roman Ottoman architecture. So, how do you think, like, in your opinion, Muslim art has evolved to what it is today? Like you mentioned before, with these very old, elaborate architecture, like people want to like ponder upon Allah's creation when they're seeing something like that. So, how has that evolved from historical examples of that to where we are today?
I mean, that's a broad question, and I wouldn't be able to speak to like the expanse of that. I think probably a good person to ask that question is Dr. Suad Abdul-Khabir, who runs Sapelo Square. She's also a professor here at Michigan University. But I would say that from my context, the golden era of like hip hop was heavily influenced by Muslims, like heavily influenced by Muslims. Prior to that, even the sort of Harlem Renaissance and jazz musicians were all people who had some sort of spiritual lineage, towards the East. And I say that because a lot of times we look at like Islam, like Malcolm X came and then like boom, like like everybody became Muslim, like whatever the case may be. But there was a lot of dawah, there was a lot of shahadas taken right in the middle of ciphers. After ciphers, there were a lot of things that were translated on record when people were talking about different concepts, and being Muslim and Islam, that came through art, and so that's the origins that I'm sort of birthed from. I don't know what maybe what went on in Turkey or something like that. I don't know all of that history. There's a really good book called Muslim Cool that Dr. Suwar wrote, that gives sort of like a really good lineage of how that influenced art in America. It's influenced just the hip hop generation, and how you in a golden era, you needed to have something inspired by Islam, a part of your, a part of what you spitting, for it to be valid, for you to be standing on your own too, in a verse or something like that. So, yeah.
Do you
for the book suggestions, by the way?
Yeah, definitely. Muslim Cool has actually been a book that I've been meaning to like read for the longest time, and it's been on my reading list. I wanted to ask a really quick follow-up question with this, is in the sense of when it comes to aspects of art or creativity in spaces of like poetry or prose. We talked briefly about certain, I guess, segments of the population that express their Muslimness through that, and then also like art and expression being something necessary within our spiritual spaces. But I wanted to like for the listeners, and actually really myself, that doesn't really think in that way. Like I understand what you're saying, but I actually don't really understand what you're saying. I want to really like hear your words on how you think about sort of like art or expression or poetry or prose or any sort of like creative outlet that you engage in as like your sort of way of engaging with religion, as how you understand spiritual development or ibadah or just like really like in that, if that makes sense. Hopefully I'm making sense with the question.
No. Well, one, Prophet Sallallahu, he prayed for Hassan bin Thabit radiallahu anhu to be inspired by the Ruh al-Qudus, right? So that he would have more inspiration from the Ruh al-Qudus to be able to continue putting down on paper what he was able to put down on paper, or put in his head to come out his mouth. So that in there you have a poet / artist being prayed for more inspiration from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Another teacher of mine said that because I was in a space where I was like, does this stuff really, am I going the right way with everything?
Mm.
And he said that for some people, the minute you say call Allah, whatever they've gone through, whatever they're at spiritually, their ears shut off.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like as soon as you say call Rasulullah, it's like boop, like
Yeah.
I'm tapped out. But if I myself put in 8 bars, of me writing, talking about my own sort of spiritual decline and searching for myself within what Allah has given us, and their ears are tuned to that. Because art is like it's subjective. It's like for you.
Yeah.
It's like whatever you're showing up for. For instance, people like love a certain sort of like rapper, and for me it might be like feel like cat scratching against a chalkboard.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason they feel like they connect with that particular person or particular sound. It's the very same thing. Some people, like you said, we've mastered lectures and halakat and all that. We mastered it. We can do that all day, all day and all night.
Yeah.
But there may be some segments of our community that just it might go in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
And so we have to try to, with our best, ground ourselves in the fundamentals of Islam, but also being able to speak to the same thing. So I may say in a poem about what does it feel like when your iman is rock bottom, and that may prick somebody's conscience rather than somebody at the minbar being like, and y'all out here and your iman is low and Jahannam is it's right at the nape of your neck, and their ears might have shut off immediately.
Yeah.
It might have shut off as soon as you said, and alhamdulillah, nahmadu, I'm out of here. I'm just here to pray and get out of here. So I hope that makes sense. It's like
No,
whoever.
it definitely does.
Yeah.
No, mashallah.
I had like a follow up on that. It's like the whole like spiritual journey, seeing Allah in art, and like all this. I had to ask, like, about your own spiritual journey. And I follow you on Instagram, so I've been seeing Sheikh Abdul Karim Yahya there and Ya Rahma. I was wondering, like, what's like your relationship with them, and Sheikh Abdul Karim Yahya is like, mashallah, like a giant. Like I know, like some of his students are just like mashallah. So I just wanted to know, like, about like your relationship with him and Dar Rahma, and like I guess like I don't know if you could speak to a little bit about that.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So my in-laws, they went to Tareem
Oh, mashallah.
in like the 2000s or something like that.
Wow,
that's awesome.
And so they were there with the other expats. Sheikh Abdul Karim Yahya, Sheikh Yahya wrote us.
Yeah, mashallah.
And so my wife and I got married actually when she came back after her second time being there. And so
your wife's from Tareem?
No. She's like from here.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I've known of him, sort of followed his work or whatever the case may be. It's just sort of, this was a good time to be able to go and spend and sit with him, alhamdulillah, and that's, been just a Mubarak experience. And I would say, one of the things that I realize is that, like, we have to, like, take Islam, like, off of this grand stage. And what I realize is when you sit with people like him, when you sit with people who their day-to-day is sort of the path, that is very just like normal existing and striving. It's not sort of this like edutainment that we have experienced within the last 2 decades with Muslims in America.
Is that what you mean by putting Islam on a grand stage? That we've been so obsessed with entertainment?
Yeah, it's like edutainment, but it's really like striving. Like, can I get to Fajr for the first takbir? Let alone have it decorated background, fierce khatira. Like it's not. Yeah. It's really like, can I get to the masjid, pray? If he has something to say, I'm listening. can I implement what was just said? And so I think when we are able to not reduce, when we're able to put our ibadah in that proper place, it'll make things easy for us because we put these things on the stage for so long.
Mhm.
It's almost like, man, either I am Sheikh such and such or a bust. Like I don't have nothing else to offer.
Yeah.
But
That is
like, you
amazing.
know, so it's like just being like a regular Muslim. And so I think one of the things when you meet people who come from places like Tarim, like Tuba, like Medina, these different places, you'll see that their every day is so deemed up that like it takes the stage away. It
Yeah.
takes that like the bells and whistles. It just takes
Right.
it's just like regular just striving. And so I wanted to be among that and to taste a little bit more of what that is like. So
Was that something and hopefully like this might not get I don't mean to get too personal, but I really hope to understand like one of the things that I think fascinate me is just like people's sort of journeys in spiritual development. As someone that is a Muslim creative and poet, as someone that I guess is acquainted with a level of like stage,
mhm,
was there ever a moment where in that sort of experience you found like the need for the sort of like everyday like spiritual space?
for sure, for sure, for sure. One of the I say from like the last 4 years, like it's gone from being like, oh, I need to like learning and my deen together to be more like I have to be super intentional because notoriety, fame, like all these things are like extremely um they just weigh heavy on the nafs, man. Like it's no getting away from it. And notoriety ends up and I hope I explain this clearly. Notoriety will bastardize things
Mm,
that like Allah has already put within you
mm,
that are normative. So what I mean by that is like my family already does art, whether like we're gonna be expressing ourselves in any, whether it was gonna be a camera or people watching, period. I've been writing poems and writing, and if it was people not there, I was still gonna be doing that.
yeah.
But because we have these microscopes, it just makes everything like like it just takes everything off the Richter scale.
Yeah.
And so when you realize that people have an attraction to that notoriety, or it just makes you feel like, oh, I need to get right with Allah. Like I need to become like 10 times more grounded because the audience can't hype you up. It's a serious weight that people carry. Like, and I always like say like I'm a super regular person. Like I'm like very, and so especially like even in the age of social media, people, because they've only maybe seen you in this certain like way, they expect it to be some sort of performance, even if you just chilling, like mind your business, drinking a coffee at Panera Bread. It's like, Tariq Touré, you about to say something profound. And I'm like,
I feel like this has happened before to you.
can you pass me the honey? Right there. Like, so it can be horrible, man. And I've seen it happen to people who have way more eyes on them than me. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, I want to be comfortable with my own skin. I want to be able to walk into 7-Eleven in, some dirty, like, sleeping clothes and crust around my mouth, and people would not be like, oh, we caught him slipping. It's like, no, man, like, regular dude, man. Keep your humanity. I would say that's if you strive towards Allah and you're able to have a front-facing talent, then it'll keep your humanity. People won't see you as some sort of figurine.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
I had a quick follow up on that. It's like you said, like there's like this whole like view that's either Islam or bust, kind of.
Mm.
But and the amazing thing about a lot of the like like even if you look from the Shuyuk and Tarim and like even the Shuyuk in history, they were doing multiple things. Like they were poets, they were doctors, but at the same time their deen was phenomenal. And I just that balance is just so incredible to see. And how you maintain that. And I was just wondering, like, in your like personal spiritual development, like what I would ask, like, if is that like the role of your teachers or like your social circle that helps you stay grounded and like not like go too far one way, do it too far other way. Like I guess like how do you like maintain that balance with somebody that's trying to do or that is doing both? Being like maintaining the dean and also moving like what you're doing forward.
Yeah, like, I'm not sure like y'all backgrounds, but like if you got like older cousins, uncles, aunties, big brothers, big sisters, or especially in the Muslim community, like they may not be related to you, but they're cousins or whatever. I don't know. Your cousins don't understand, right? Right. So
Yeah.
as long as you keep tight to those people, I think you'll be a little bit more safer because like they know you.
Yeah.
They don't know you for like fame enough. They like know you. They can still pull your card. Like, one of the things I pride myself for, I've had the same phone number for the last. I've never had another phone number. So somebody I knew day one could call me down, right? Like or whenever. And that's just like a small symbolic like manifestation of that. But you need people around you who know you like well to keep you grounded. Because if you ever get out of pocket, if you only have people who are in awe of you around, that's one of the things Sheikh Abdul Karim said a while ago. He said, not being in a company of people who you have some sort of like haya around is dangerous. You have nobody, you feel a little bit of shame. Your teacher walk in, you like, let me sit up straight. If you don't have nobody around you like that, that is dangerous. And society tells us to do away with those people. Like, throw them in the trash. Like, you wasn't with me shooting at the gym. Like, get away. No, you keep them folks around because they're actually going to help you 10 times more. They'll let you know when your art is going away from what you know. They'll let you know when your art is going towards what you're supposed to be doing. And it's just healthier, man. So I would say for me, it's just having folks around me who know me, and I just can't play games with it. I couldn't put on the front like for it whatsoever. They'd be like, "What are you doing, man?"
Yeah, of course.
Great example is that yesterday my sister sent me this tweet. I was talking about how like some people have self-awareness to know not to start a podcast.
I mean, I mean, she didn't just if she said like start a movement to take back the United States Capitol, that's the whole other thing. But it's a podcast. I don't know how many. If it was something like super detrimental, then like it's a podcast, man. Like
I don't know.
So Avery, you have a question? You guys
yeah, I did have one question, kind of going off of like you're talking about like you don't give a kid like one chance to perform at a poetry night, like you can't expect greatness, right? Like, or it's like I really like that idea because like it's so true. But I had a kind of a question about young Muslims, right? That maybe like whether they look up to you or someone else who's a creative in the Muslim community, like what would you say to them? Because like maybe many of them don't have a direction, but they really want to get in touch with their creative side. And maybe they are in touch with their creative side. They just don't know how to output that, or if they should output that. Like, what would you say to those kids?
I would say that like one of the ways that like our deen is gonna survive here, right? Like one of the ways our deen is gonna survive here, because art is in a cultural space, is that we like hold tight to the parts of our culture that help us forward, right? So whether that is different types of like idea, whatever the case may be, but specifically regarding like art, your story and where you come from, how you've gotten here to this point, that you still wake up in the morning, you still believe in La ilaha illallah, like that matters. Like it matters a whole lot. Like it matters more than you would think. Like I remember hearing somebody say, oh my God, they're gonna Debk again, right? Like, they're always Debk. And I was thinking now this is me, my lineage has suffered through transatlantic slave trade. And now, as upon La ilaha illallah for today, what is it's the 16th or something like that, right? For today, we're still trying to do La ilaha illallah. I don't know about tomorrow, whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
You're telling me that somebody who's literally like right now still having their homelands bulldozed, that some of the resemblance of that is still maybe just within a dance. You're going to tell them, you're going to ridicule and subjugate that dance.
Yeah.
When there may be like the one thread, people who have Alzheimer's, you bring things, relics of the past so that they can like remember, right? That's generation and generation too.
Yeah.
So I would say to young Muslims, like who you are, where you've come from, where you're going, like hold tight to it. And if you can speak through your art those realities, then like you've hit the jackpot. Not the money jackpot, but the jackpot of the next cohort of youngins coming up. You wouldn't have told them a lie. There's a book, but it's like in the thing, but it's by Edward Said, the renowned poet from Philistine, and like he has a poem in there, and he's talking about like the breezes and how the air smells, and the bread that you can smell there, right? And I'm listening, I'm reading it. My Arabic isn't super really good, but
Do you
I
mean
feel like I'm there.
Edward Said or Mahmoud Darwish?
I'm sorry, Mahmoud Darwish. I'm sorry, my apologies.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you for correcting me. So he's talking about that. It's a purple book like that. He's talking about that, and I feel like I'm there. And I'm a kid from West Baltimore. I can't imagine what that's like for somebody who's actually been there or actually had their grandparents talk about that. Those things, that collective memory that art provides, helps you hold tight to it. I'm trying to make it through the 1,500 episodes of Ertugrul, and all that they're talking about is lineage. All they're talking about, what is Islam but spiritual lineage? And so we got to hold tight to those things. And I think if you can communicate those things through your art, then you've done what you needed to do as an artist. Like you've contributed, you've done your part. Thank you for correcting me, Mahmoud.
No worries. So actually, when it comes to this specifically, this sort of collective memory, how do you see that in your own work, and how you're expressing this sort of generational memory?
Yeah,
I'd love to like hear about it.
Yeah, so if I say I'm standing here as a manifestation, we're gathered here as a representation. How is this related? Small illustration. My pops was dealing dimes of Dean up on the dope strip. You can still see the lines of fiends getting their nose hit. Allah still raising our degrees. We never know if people like them never bent their knees and exposed this, which is a fact. So if you go to North Avenue, like where our school was, where like Dawah was done in my city, it's a dope strip. Like it's actually where people who are suffering from addiction go to buy narcotics, right? Well, on that same place, there were brothers and sisters who said, I want to provide an answer to some of these things that you're going through. Do you know what La ilaha illallah is? You can still see the lines of fiends getting their nose hit. We prostrate, our noses hit the ground, right? But it's, metaphorically, nose, whatever the case may be. But within that, like my daughter will never be able to say, Daddy ain't tell me what was sacrificed. Because they could have not accepted Islam. They could have, y'all folks, however long, maybe it go back, whatever the case may be, they could have heard the message. They could have very well heard the message and be like, yeah, sounds great, but I'm good. So, there's appreciation that you build up from that. And so it's my job as an artist to take that reality, hearing, my parents or other people talk about the dawah that was done, listen to it. My job as an artist is to stir that up and present that in bars. Same reality, just to a different palette. And hopefully that conveys what that really really means. And that poem is from a poem called The Prayer of Ibrahim. Because,
Awesome.
you know, Ibrahim alayhi salam prayed for his progeny to still be upon La ilaha illallah. So, yeah, we just had to work to build that appreciation.
So for this podcast actually specifically, we've been talking about that a lot in the sense that sort of expression and art as something that is connected to spirituality, but also like the concern about like the next generation, or even like current generations that don't necessarily have that may not that are at risk of not having la ilaha illallah, right? Like you said like earlier that I have la ilaha illallah today and I may not have it tomorrow. Is this something that you think about a lot? Is this something that you are like very well concerned of?
Yeah, I think once you start to get kids, or when you start to have like little cousins and you listen to their conversation, you be like, what?
Oh
You be
man.
like, what are you you're like, what? Like, and you know, it's a part of getting older, but it's also a part of like Allah, because Allah could not even notify you that they talking crazy. Allah could be like, you don't even notice. Actually, you nodding them and giving them the salute when they talking nuts about stuff, right? But Allah is saying to you, hey, you're in the driver's seat now. The people who came before, they already drove the car to this particular exit, this rest stop. Gas it up and go. And so there is an onus on those of us who may know and may still just trying to figure it out, to at least leave some footnotes, leave some cliff notes about where we need to go. And particularly for us here in the States, like some of our folks were in dire straits. Like we were in serious conditions, you know, where they didn't know what tomorrow was going to be like. And now you have generations. And so we can't take that for granted, you know, whatsoever. Like there's nothing, you know, and the Quran is constantly about people who had it and lost it. Like they had it, lost it, had it, lost it, had it, lost it. And so whether they take to it or not, you know, that's really, you know, upon Allah. Like Allah makes Muslims, that's already written. But another thing Sheikh Abdul Karim said was, you know, like the guards of Jahannam, they're quicker to the da'is and the qaris, right? They're quicker to them. Why? Because one, if we don't practice or you don't do what you say or you preaching people to do, but also if you sat on what you knew, you ain't say a word, you know, just let things go. Or you didn't learn the proper way to bring people nearer. Because another thing, people be like, I gotta tell people, like, I have to save Islam. So like, I'm gonna just parade the internet. But also learning the way to bring people nearer is another thing. So hopefully they take to it. You know, if they don't, then like Allah protect us all.
Inshallah.
Wow, subhanAllah.
I need at least 20 minutes to digest.
Literally, I was like, man, I just need to like get some marinating. But I had another question that you mentioned earlier, and it's kind of like a change from this topic, which was amazing, mashallah. But how do you really feel about social media? Like, how do you really feel about social media?
Especially connected to what you said previously, right? That there are moments where you might say something and like people like, oh, Tariq, like you're about to say something profound, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like a double-edged sword. It you know, like writer James Baldwin, he said, you know, he said something to the effect of, you think your suffering is only happening to you until you read a book. And so like people's lives have become an open book in a way. And so sometimes you can see that people struggling just as much as you are. You know, they're trying to make it every day just as much as you are. I think the very dangerous parts of it is that social media can be very like get on board or throw you off the train, you know? And I think those aspects of it really harm our interpersonal relationships. You know, the Sahaba, like they were interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
You know, even our parents, they didn't have to have social media. They had to work stuff out. Now I can just power my phone down and I don't have to deal with you, like, which is scary, right? Like that in itself is very scary because it's informing every one of us that we're gonna be left to ourselves, you know, and like being by yourself is like being a lone sheep, and we don't want people to be like that. Like we're very social creatures. Like we need each other,
Yeah.
and I think social media gives a false sense of being together. You know, um, like I've never gone back and forth with people on social media. Like from the very onset, I remember years and years ago, like when I like maybe like the first day I noticed that people would use that as a way to like go back and forth.
Mm.
It was something like small and like this like person snapped at me and I didn't have a concept. I'm like, we're not even in the same room. Like what? I'm like, right? Like what is, and so just the idea of like there's no emotional feedback, especially for kids. Like you can't see the harm that your words are doing to somebody. And
Yeah.
you know, where I come from, like if somebody says something crazy, like I remember two guys were going it back and forth on Twitter, like going back and forth on Twitter, saying horrible stuff to each other. And they were in the same room maybe like a couple of days later.
Yeah.
Now where I'm from, I'm like, well, like, all right, here's okay, they about to beat each other half to death.
Yeah.
They didn't say a word to each other. And I was like,
Oh wow.
so those are sort of kind of indications letting me know that like there's some parts of this thing that just doesn't sit right, and it's like very artificial.
Yeah.
So we just have to be like really, really careful. You know, I'm caught up like other people. Like, where's my button? Oh. So I have one of those glass timer cases that you can shut your phone and you can't get into it. So like literally, I'll turn my phone off, I put it in a case, I'll be like 10 hours, and then I'll put it to the side, and like I can't get in it until the timer
What?
comes.
Wow.
That's
So,
cool.
like-
I've never heard of that actually. That's actually really
Yeah.
cool.
It's like a kitchen timer. I think like people used to use it for like kids and cookies or something like that. But you can look for it on the internet. But
It's
you
like
have to,
it's like on Social Dilemma. Have you guys watched Social Dilemma? It's like the
yeah,
same thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So like you gotta restrict yourself basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to get one of those timers, honestly.
Yeah, it's a helpful tool, man. Like at sometimes we have you gotta face down addiction. You know, like you have to face addiction.
Mhm.
Step one, acceptance. Like you have to accept that a large amount of us have been swept into this vacuum of social media, and we have to take real means to detach from it. You know, they do not say, somebody has, a problem with alcohol to go chill in the bar every night.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make sense. You know, you have to like take yourself out of the situation. So we got to find different ways and just start connecting with people. And it's quarantine right now, but just connecting with folks. And sometimes, last thing I'll say is like sometimes the internet will feed something so much to where they're trying to make it so much like a thing that's happening right now that it builds paranoia, right? So like last week, white folks, storming the Capitol, white Americaing, and it's this hysteria. You're like, oh, what's the, and I'm gonna get the strap, get the load of everything up, but then you realize like, okay, you should be aware, but that's a disrespect to people who live in real war zones, who literally hour after hour they listening intently, trying to figure out what's going to happen next. So we have to understand like what's like really really happening, and what's maybe a threat, or it's just social media. Just I don't know, man. We can go on for days about it, but it's dangerous, man. It's a dangerous place.
I would agree with that.
So
and as we get, sorry, go ahead, Mubarak.
Yeah, no. So, no, this has been a really great conversation, Brother Tariq, especially you've opened my mind a bit when it comes to like the sort of like space and need for like Muslim creators and expression. As someone that like particularly just doesn't engage in that sort of like space of thinking. And we're hoping to just wrap up in a few minutes, but before that, we really wanted to like know and like talk about I guess like what's next for you. What are some things or projects that you're working on now or going to be doing in the future? Because I think a lot of us have been following you for a while in terms of like your writing and poetry and even like your recent book. But we'd love to know what's next.
Yeah, and how can people like sincerely support what you're doing as well?
Yeah.
Man, make the dua for the Rohul Qudus to be a part of me and to continue to convey to me for the rest of my life until I have no more breath in my lungs. That would be everything has really stemmed from the writing. So um, one thing I don't do, I had to divorce myself from is being like project based or and what I mean by that is the next thing that I'm doing is writing because I'm right. This is the things that Allah has allowed me to be able to do. So like I write and then form follows function. So like I'll do a lot of writing and then I have a book. I'll do a
I was
lot
gonna
of
ask
writing.
that.
Yeah,
Okay, so
like
that's how it works for you. That's your process. Like
so just write, and then whenever the work starts to become redundant and it has a theme, like whatever space that I'm in, then I'll be like, okay, well this collection of writing is about this. So I wanna continue to do more like small short film stuff, like I don't know, nothing past like 6 minutes. I want to do some more of that. I'm going to be, inshallah, releasing another collection of poetry called Citizen Touré, inshallah, this year.
Inshallah.
Um,
You've
so
teased
I'll
at that,
work
I
on
think.
building. What'd you say?
Citizen Torre, you've teased at that for a bit.
Yeah. So inshallah, I'll get that done. Inshallah, maybe around May, something like that. Um, and well, I just launched our first like paper product
The
for
journal.
my company. Yeah, for our first paper product. And I just realized like we have like people who make like journals, maybe planners, but like we don't have a stationary company. And so inshallah, hopefully it can grow to that. People still write, people still use a pen and pad.
Yeah.
So people can do that. They can go on the site Ready on the Sword and order one of those. Really, just writing, man. Just writing. Like let the form follow function. I'm gonna write a whole lot. Like I'll write a whole lot, and then I'll be like, I'll look at, I'll see, oh, these 7 pieces. This is more so like a thing I can put to some like cinematic, like B-roll or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll see another piece. I'll say, maybe this can just be like, I just perform this one.
Yeah.
Just the variety of it. And then those things sort of
I'm really intrigued by this because I'm more of a function and then form type of guy. So cause like for me, like I have like different projects I have to like like really just like organize in. Is there a reason why you like you prioritize the other way, like engage in the process of writing first and then see like like the outputs of it? I'm really intrigued by like I guess like why that's your process.
Yeah, because I think once you just submerge yourself in like doing the creativity, like you just say, hey, I'm a painter, I'm just going to paint until I'm exhausted from painting. You'll start to realize that like paintings will then come. Like you'll finish a painting. You finish a whole lot of them. And so because of our education, sort of system, our benchmarks, they've like really, we've been getting benchmarked since first grade.
Yeah.
Whatever case may be. And so, sitting with Sheikh will make you realize that like, just prod along the path, do the duties, operate and function, right? and stop worrying about whether or not the teacher's gonna give you an A. Like,
Right.
or is you gonna, you know, for my folks who are in med school, please get A's because we need you to get properly. So okay, don't go online and say Tariq said, you know, forget that, you know, flunk out. No, we need you all to do it right. By civil engineers, we need you all to make sure that we can cross bridges and all that craziness. So do what you need to do. But creatively for me and just projects for me is I'm sure that Kobe, you know, he passed away. I'm sure when he went in the gym, he said, I'm gonna put up 2,000 shots. But I don't think while he was doing those 2,000 shots, he was thinking 2,000. He's like, let me get this one right. Next one right.
Yeah.
Next one right. And so that's for me. It's like I'm gonna try to just write a whole lot. And yeah, so you know, you guys are podcasting. Your goal should I hope it's not we need to pump out 30 episodes.
No, actually, now that you're saying this, like, this is probably the only thing. This podcast is probably the only thing where I just don't think about it in the sort of like project base. It's like all of us really just want to do this for fun.
To that because Mubarak is very technical, but here, all we care about here is that whoever is coming, like, we actually genuinely want to learn or listen to them. Like, bring someone that like it's not performative. It's not want to put someone on the Instagram. Like, we've actually learned so much in just 8 episodes.
No, so yeah, it's been like I didn't realize that until like you just said it, but like this whole process right now is a shift for me personally, just worry about the process and just put one more podcast out, one more sort of like expressive like sort of like need out.
Yeah,
we vibe, man. My homie Saeed, he said his mother will be like cooking. What does she make? Oh man, I can't remember what the dish is called, but he was asking her like, how much salt or something like that should you put in there, and she was like, this much, like holding her hand out cupped, right? You know, Bob's just be in the flow. You know, like
we call it andaza in Urdu.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like you just in the flow, you just getting it done, and so. We all benefit from that because when you're sitting down to eat, you like, oh my, I forgot about my exams. Like I'm just here enjoying this. So like there's all sort of there's ways you can benefit from people being in their flow and just trotting along. So I'm just trying to do my part and see what comes after.
And I would say, Masha, you're doing a great job per my standard. But projecting here, but I feel like we live in a world where it is incredibly hard to be someone who reflects. And I feel like as a writer, your biggest task isn't just the writing you do. It's like it's seeing beyond the superficial aspects of life, like seeing beyond like the headline, like seeing beyond like what the person shows you when you talk to them and then get in that conversation, and then thinking about that and then writing about it. So like I feel like that is a very exhausting thing just for me to think about. And that you may go through. But I know you train your muscle, your brain, like it's a process and it's different. Output is always different. But like, how do you keep that motivation to keep exercising your brain, but also like, how do you keep reflecting? Because without reflection, like, how are we even Muslim, right?
Yeah. Alhamdulillah, like we so like we're studying Shamal. And like may Allah bless the Sahaba around Sallallahu who took down those minute details, right? Like, you know, to document someone's life like that, that's like a force of Allah, and you know, we lose people in our life, and you know, there are people we can't talk to anymore. There are places that, you know, some people, there are places they can't go anymore. You know, they go back home or something like that, and that it's just not there. Like it's gone. What you love, what you appreciate about those spaces and places and people is like maybe how, you know, if your uncle, if he was about to say something crazy while y'all would gather eating, you got one uncle who always say something nutty, like out of pocket, right? How his nose like flared up, or you know, his ears started twitching, and he's like, da-da-da-da, and everybody's like, oh God, this guy, like, who let him in, right? Yeah. When those people pass away, those are the things that like you really like that you can still taste from them. And so for me, it's about capturing those parts and like putting them in a bottle, of my work, so that people can go back and like and feel that, and you can always draw back to those moments, and it just again, like I said, it builds an appreciation for those things, those people. What is it? I think it's Hagia Sophia. Where the picture where Malcolm is when he's praying and all the lights are
Oh
above.
yeah, in Turkey.
Yeah, right. So that photographer, like, bless them, right? Because when you go in there and you're like, oh, wow, those sorts of things are why we do what we do, and like that. That's what's my favorite part of Ertugrul is when Waldemir sits the kids around.
Oh yeah.
He's transmitting like he's right, like he's doing the same thing Sahaba used to do. Let me tell you about your glory.
Yeah.
Like those things, like they matter, man. So like I don't, like so we talk about like different like people from the African continent, and like somebody like got on Nigerians, right? And I'm like, listen, do you know like my Nigerian homies, they've been getting gassed up since they were 2 years old, that they were like, so it's no reason they walk around with their chest poked out. Anytime their folks came into the room, they were telling them they're the king of such and such. You're the best. You're the cream of the crop. So we had to do the same thing. We had to capture those moments and do the same thing.
Oh my gosh. But I guess like, Masha, I want to keep talking, but I know we've talked for a long.
Yeah.
Inshallah, maybe, Brother Tariq, there will have to be another episode in the future.
Inshallah. Thank y'all so much for having me. I'm very grateful that you all would even just consider to bring me on.
Oh, no, we're the ones who are honored.
Oh,
honestly, this has been a great conversation.
But if you could just reiterate one more time, like how can people find you? I mean, we know where to find you, but just if you could tell them like your books, support you.
Yeah. People can go to Tareq Touré, Tariq Toure, on all social media platforms. You can go to greaterthanthesword.com to get things related to my writing products. You can go to tariqtoure.com, some stuff on there that you can grab. If you got kids, you can buy David's Dollar at davidsdollar.com. But more specifically, if you want to make dua, mention me by name, and inshallah, just appreciate everything. Allah may Allah put blessing and barakah in your podcast.
And before Mubarak hits that outro music, I'm gonna one of your Instagram posts. It's actually been my lock screen for like a couple months now.
SubhanAllah, it's
I'm
crazy.
just gonna say it for anyone listening to the podcast, because I think it wraps up everything perfectly, honestly. So here it goes. The world is shifting as it always has. Find your footing, find your frequency, serve your soul, serve your family, serve humanity, rest, repeat.
Yeah.
That's your 2021 motto.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Oh, salam.
And Dave, thank you for ending beautifully, because we'll now end on so beautifully with this cringy theme song. But alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair, for coming on, and for the viewers and the listeners, hopefully inshallah you benefited. With that, we'll say salam to everyone, inshallah.
Are you playing the